Hey, welcome back to Dollar Reviews. Once again, it's your brain trust Brian Gillis, joined by Steve.
Hello, everybody.
So, just to give you some backstory on us, two film school grads straight out of Cal State Long Beach. I got my degree in film editing, Steve in sound editing, and it's been a passion of ours our whole life, and we just decided sometimes you gotta talk about some shit, and in our case, new releases. So, today we're gonna deal with Dope. What'd you think?
Man, how do I how do I do this without? I don't want to make a pun out of this, man. But
Mm.
I got no choice. It was dope. I'm not gonna lie, man. It was dope. I just got out of it, so I'm still
Mm-hmm.
processing my thoughts. But when I was driving back, I guess the first thing that came to my mind was that this is the Goodfellas of coming of age movies. By that I mean it's really, really fast, man. Like it just goes at one speed the whole time, and a lot of stuff happens, and it gets really crazy. But it's insane, man. I really loved it. Might be my favorite movie so far of the summer.
More than Mad Max.
Maybe, just maybe. I
Wow.
mean, I got to think about that a little more. But
Well, I gotta ask then.
hmm
I mean, most people like coming of age films, especially high school flicks, and
yeah,
this is both of those. Um, Hip hop, is that something you do? Do you listen to rap
no,
music?
actually, I knew nothing about the movie going in. All I
Uh
knew was
huh.
the title.
You didn't see the trailer?
I knew no, I didn't. I knew it was big at Sundance, so that kept it on my
Yeah,
radar.
this was like
And
the second biggest one this
yeah, in
season,
fact, when we were talking about reviewing it, you pointed it out and that it was coming out. So I'm guessing you were a lot more excited about this than I
Yeah,
was.
yeah. I didn't know who the director was. I didn't care who produced it. And if you don't know, it's Pharrell and Forrest Whitaker and
P
P
Diddy, yeah.
Diddy, and a couple other people. And yeah, just I do listen to rap music, a lot of stuff. And I'm sure you wouldn't notice, but ASAP Rocky, he's a rapper. He plays Dom. Vince Staples, he's a rapper from Long Beach. He's just getting big right now. He played like his little henchman with the slippery slope dialogue, and so I listened to their music, and so that was a motivator for me to want to watch this. Plus, I just like the style to it. I like the Malcolm's high top fade and like their clothes and all that stuff. And
Yeah, I'm some I was really happy about going in because I just kind of assumed that it would be a period piece.
yeah,
Yeah, I
it
knew.
looks that way. I knew it
Yeah, I
wasn't, but it
like
looks that way.
I think I saw stills, and I just saw the way that they were dressed, and I was like,
Hmm.
okay, this is gonna be set in the '90s. I was so fucking happy that it
Yeah,
wasn't. It was not just because I am. I kind of get just a little bit annoyed when I see stuff that's nostalgic for the '80s or for the '90s on purpose.
yeah.
Like just I don't know. I just kind of
That's
get bothered by it. But here it really is more a movie about those kids rather than just being a
then.
movie that is like
Mhm.
that on purpose.
Exactly. It's just a portion of their personalities is that they like the '90s, and I think that's a good change of pace, especially since not too long ago when we were in high school, it was about the '80s, and so it makes sense that
Well, high school probably was different for you, man.
well maybe, but for me, I remember the beginning of high school, like and just coming out of Vice City not too many years before that, and that '80s show and a lot of stuff. It was like the '80s resurgence was going on, and I've seen it myself. Like '90s are making a thing, like neon colors are back, and '90s hip hop's always been like a boner for most people on the internet. So it was good to see that embrace, especially in the beginning, showing Malcolm's room like a Super Nintendo. But I mean, there's some off things like he wouldn't be listening to a Walkman on the way to school,
Have
and
you ever seen anybody do that?
no, I've never
I
seen.
see that in movies all the
Yeah, there's
time. Like,
no
yeah, no
way
one does
that
that in real life.
there's no way that someone who's 17 years old would go out and buy a Walkman. I know people that release music like local bands on cassette. That's kind of like listen to it in your car, but no one has like a tape deck. There's no way.
Yeah, no,
Um,
seriously.
like it
I
worked,
mean,
but I didn't have a problem with it. But it took me out just a little bit.
I I still rock the VHS sometimes, so I
Sometimes
can
because
I
it's
can buy
that.
that. Yeah, but I
That's
got
only
my own
because you
reasons for
own
doing
them. You're
that.
not doing it on purpose.
No,
You
no,
didn't
like
go out and buy it to look hip.
no, just I already have them. I like having the different formats of different things. But yeah. So what did you think?
I liked it. It was definitely not even. There was some balance problems. It tried to be a lot of films in one. I already mentioned, the coming of age high school stuff. It does that pretty well, but then you got some like internet commerce stuff and like them being in a band and they're
There is definitely way too much. Well, maybe not, probably too much, but
it's a little too
it's
much going
yeah.
on.
And I did feel I kind of assumed it would be an hour and a half. It's more closer to two
To
hours, so I
two,
did
yeah, it's
feel it
like an
was a
hour
bit
and
long.
45.
But it just moves like a bullet train and it doesn't stop.
Yeah,
So,
it has
and
a
that is
fairly good pace.
the style works so well that I honestly, this could obviously be a mark against the movie, but I really didn't question the logistics of what was going on,
Yeah,
especially with the dealing stuff going through online through Bitcoin and all that.
let's backtrack. You said you didn't have a problem with the style. When you said that, do you mean the way it looks visually or the way
Or
it's
no, well,
presented?
what I mean is when the movie moves at a fast pace like that, it's usually about the style and things move so fast that the logistics of what's happening within the plot, you don't necessarily question it because you're already moving on to the next thing. And that's some a lot of movies do. I don't really have a problem with it when it works for that, and here it definitely works. That's
Life
what I
moves
mean by
by
that.
pretty fast. You don't stop. You
Yeah.
miss it.
No, it might be like Goodfellas in the sense of once I get the DVD, I'm probably gonna have to backtrack and catch a bunch of things that I didn't see before.
I mean, I got the movie fairly well, but when you said style, what comes to my mind, and it kind of took me out because, and it definitely has like Goodfellas feel to it, is that it opens with narration, and I definitely wasn't against it. It kind of worked, but as a rule of thumb, I generally don't like that in films.
I don't know. I mean, for that, especially for that Goodfellas style, that's
Hmm.
which this is a coming of age story, but that's some Scorsese does in Casino and Wolf of Wall Street. It's something that Michael Bay did the same thing in Pain and Gain. So I
But
think
see, that's the thing, though. In those examples, though, the protagonist is the narrator. This isn't the case. Forrest Whitaker's narrating this film. And I don't understand why, because he's not in it. I don't know why there's a narrator necessary. If Malcolm had narrated the film, it would have made sense to me. Because Ferris Bueller narrates this film. Scorsese with Goodfellas, Casino, Wolf of Wall Street. Lots of examples going on here. Boiler Room. Lots of stuff. But it's very rare when you have this outside character, especially someone who's not on screen. I like it when the character, like, you have a narrator and then out of nowhere he appears on screen, sometimes even narrating and breaking the fourth wall. And this is the opposite. You have the narrator and then you have Malcolm breaking the fourth wall in some moments or like winking at the camera. And it definitely works, but it, is very omni, what's the word?
omniscient.
Yeah, omniscient narrator. Like he knew things that Malcolm didn't, and he knew things about characters that who knows what.
Well, maybe you could say that it's about Malcolm having his own voice and coming into his own at the end, which he didn't have.
Which he does, yeah.
Yeah, not at the beginning. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I liked his arc. His arc was done very well. I'm just not sure with how much is going on that it's very realistic. Especially because, I mean, the film, it covers maybe a month, probably a little bit less than that.
no, it's definitely not this is not reality in any way.
Yeah.
Like it is moving at just a crazy pace. Like it.
But that's the thing, though. Okay, so this, you didn't see the advertising.
No, I didn't.
You don't really do the hip hop thing.
No.
But this is kind of advertised or marketed as the hip hop flick, which they don't really make anymore. And you break it down, like I already mentioned, you got some rappers in it. Obviously, with the three main characters' fascinations with 90s hip hop and their clothes. Then you even, you go further when you have it take place 100% in Inglewood and, a little other areas in LA, but mostly Inglewood. And the cast is like, 99% black or people of color.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very rare film. And they push the 90s angle and it feels somewhat like a 90s film. It doesn't have the same direction as Boys in the Hood. It's not that dark or like Poetic Justice or Menace to Society. It's not one of those. It's not very political. It's supposed to be a fun film.
It's very hyper and kinetic.
Yeah, exactly. But I really liked that it was able to give this voice, or not voice, but it was able to present a story for a part of our society that isn't given the spotlight, especially with mostly unknowns. Because you look at the leads in this film, besides the lobby boy from Grand Budapest, they're nobodies.
Okay, that's who that was.
Oh, you didn't notice that was him?
I was thinking that the whole time. I could not tell who that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that solves that. Yeah, though, no, I definitely agree. For me, yeah, I've never been to Inglewood, so I got no idea what that is like there. But I mean, that is a very fascinating view for a coming of age story,
right?
Or a very fascinating setting.
I thought the setting was very pivotal. to the message that they try to convey towards the end. In the third act, the very politically conscious, very socially relevant message, especially with the one of the final shots of the film is Malcolm turning away from the camera. He puts his hood up. He's walking down the street at night, and it very much so captures the same essence. Like it strikes a chord. It hits the same stuff that Trayvon Martin and the whole George Zimmerman thing and everything that's followed since then. But that's what it was trying to do, you know. And I thought it did that very well, especially when you've been having so much fun throughout the film, and maybe that closing monologue doesn't work 100% when compared to the rest of the film and what
Well,
the
it did
characters
resonate
does.
with me though.
Yeah, it resonated with me too. I thought, especially since they angle it a certain way that for you to have this kind of experience at the end, it kind of flips it on you and tells you to like look at the situation on hand. I thought it was really nice. Like it wasn't preaching it. It was just like this is how things are where I'm from, and this is how things are in the world.
You know, it's I guess it's because I'm still processing the whole thing. It does. I think that's the one thing. That's the main. That's the last impression that I get from the movie. Even though just tonally, it kind of ends up being all over the place. But it's really. Somehow it just all feels like it fits.
It's fun.
To me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I
works.
mean, you're able to have fun with it and able to take it seriously at the same time, and that's for a film to do that. That's really rare to be able to pull
It
that off.
I can't remember the last time I saw a coming of age film that seemed like it was going to be relevant for years to come. Because, okay, like Spectacular Now, I don't know if you saw that. Miles Teller.
Yeah, no, I did. That was my favorite movie that
Yeah, it
year.
was a great film.
Yeah.
But that's a critical film. You know, that's going to go down in top of the year list. But kids aren't going to watch that. It's not going to be a Breakfast Club or anything. And
No.
this isn't at that territory. This isn't John Hughes, but it's pretty close. Like I think this is going to be. At my theater, I didn't sell many tickets. At yours, you had a different experience tonight. But I think on home video, on Redbox or whatever, like a year or two from now, it's going to be real. I think it's going to be really big a year or two from now, and like 10 years down the line.
Yeah, no, I think Open Road released it. I think they
Mm-hmm.
got a deal with
Well, there you
Netflix
go.
for putting stuff out. So yeah, it's gonna get a lot more traction from that, definitely.
Um, this isn't necessarily a spoiler, but it kind of, I don't know. It definitely, just me talking about it kind of brings, uh, not presence, but it hints at something in the plot. I really liked what they did with the Silk Road and Bitcoin stuff, just because when I read those stories, whoever posted it, I think it was like the Wall Street Journal or whoever it was, New York Times, I immediately went, this would make for a great story. And there's a documentary in the making. They're also
For
making,
Bitcoin.
yeah, well, not Bitcoin,
Yeah.
but Silk Road. They're making a dramatic film. Like Silk Road is the basis for the black market online thing that they do with the Bitcoin. It is the blueprint.
Man, I'm still trying to understand how all that stuff
It's
works.
complicated. It's not relevant to this review.
Yeah.
I could explain it to you, but it's not relevant. But yeah, I liked. But that's what I'm saying. There was so much going on. Like you
Hmm.
have that part of the story. You have why that happened. You have the punk band stuff. You have the high school stuff. You have the coming of age stuff. Just like them geeking out, him trying to get with girls. It seems more like a season to a TV show than a movie.
Well, I don't know. The way that I saw it was just because it's Inglewood, and I don't know if Inglewood is like really that rough, but I just saw it as that's how chaotic it is to live in that neighborhood. You got to be really quick on your feet. You got to adjust to every situation real quick. So that's to me, it seemed like that fit, and that worked for what the movie was trying to convey.
I mean, there's a lot that doesn't work in it though. Like, okay, you got these two friends, but their motivation or their characters are never really brought into focus. You don't know what drives them. You don't know anything about them. Barely know their names. Even Malcolm's mother, she has almost like zero to no screen time. She was just in there for a plot device.
Yeah, that
And
tends to that happens with coming of age movies.
it
That's
definitely does.
yeah.
But I
You're
thought
usually got to focus on the protagonist.
But what I thought was weird was, he's far from well dressed, but he does have a lot of stuff. He has like the computer, he has these nice Jordans, he has these outfits and the BMX bike and the skateboard and all this stuff. And then his mom's a bus driver. Like I didn't. He doesn't have a dad. He doesn't live in the country, so they don't get
That's
child
movies,
support.
man. You know, people get
It is
unlimited amounts
movies,
of
but
yeah.
it wasn't a problem. I'm just stating it. It's movies.
No, it's just it. Yeah, I do agree that that can seem kind of odd.
I
That's
mean, they
something with movies
can
that we just
fix. Well,
expect.
not fix
We
it, but I mean, look
accept.
at. Not every film does it, but it wouldn't have been fun if it was realistic. Or it wouldn't have been as fun.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Before we close this out, I saw this thing online earlier. Someone I know who is like social network famous. Okay, I don't know how many Facebook friends he has, but it's probably, if I could check, I should check. It's probably in the 4,000 range plus. Okay, any given post he gets like 50 plus likes, whole dialogue going on. He's like been published in hip hop relevant stuff like the hundreds. He does interviews. He is a wannabe rapper. He put out a vinyl record that is sold at Amoeba and stuff. Like he has some kind of credence here. He sees films and he gives these little horrible, very spoiler ridden, very negative reviews. And his for this film was something to the effect of, I can't believe they try to make a hip hop film that or like wasn't about rap and it could have been about anything. Or I can't remember. It was something very negative. And I'm just thinking, like,
Well, that's
that's not what
not.
this film is. Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, that's not at all what this
Yeah,
movie is. That's just
exactly.
that's the setting. It's just they happen to like hip hop. That's part of the culture that they grew up around. It doesn't mean that the movie has to be about the music
I know
specifically.
that. I'm just saying this is what he said. I should quote him directly, but there was like this whole conversation going on, like people agreeing with him, and that's how usually how it is, like very blinded, very ignorant, especially when it comes to the media. But like I have to ask, if you think that just because these kids listen to rap music and that there are rappers in the film, even though that has literally nothing to do with the storyline, then is every Ice Cube film a rap hip hop flick?
Well, okay, first the obvious answer to that is no, but going back to that, I don't know how this movie was marketed. For all I know, that could be exactly
It
what the guy
was.
expected to
No, yeah,
see
it
because
was.
it was yeah, so it was marketed like it was a hip hop film.
But it also
That I
wasn't.
mean, that could color the expectations. So that could be a fair criticism because I when you enter a movie, I believe you should just approach the movie as it is. You should see what the storyteller
Yeah,
wants you to see instead
but that's
of
never the case.
going in with how you expect to see what you expect to see from the marketing. But unfortunately, trailers and TV spots and all that stuff that colors your
Hmm.
expectations. So you can't help but be disappointed if it doesn't end up being an accurate representation of what was
I mean,
sold
that's
to
why
you.
Looper didn't please audiences because everything that
Yeah,
they
I mean,
marketed wasn't in the film. Like that's not what the film was. I was actually reading something about that today. It was like Ryan Johnson was really happy. That was a Sony film, right? Yeah, it was
yeah.
Sony.
I don't know if it was Looper though. I mean, I remember for the Paranormal Activity movies, I remember for 3 specifically, there was like an entire subplot in there that I think that was cut out or something, or there were shots specifically in there that made it seem much more epic, and it did not even have those in the movie at all.
So what's your bottom line?
For dope, worth the dollar, absolutely. It moves, it's fast, it's crazy, it's a lot of fun, and it's really for me. I found it very moving.
I agree with you. I would totally buy this for $1. It's worth your
Absolutely.
money. It's gonna be overlooked for a year or two. There was a reason it was big at Sundance, and it definitely still feels like one. But it's fun from beginning to end, even when it has its hiccups, even when it has its balance issues. It tries to stuff a lot together, but it almost pulls it off. And when it does, it really does. All the way up until the end with the pop-up video closing credits.
Did you sit
Just
through that?
lots of fun. Yeah, of course I did.
Like, yeah, I left because I thought we were gonna review it right away when I got out.
I'm
Yeah, but
sorry.
yeah,
I'm
it's
sure it's gonna. I'm sure those credits are gonna be on YouTube very soon.
probably. I didn't miss
Uh,
anything very crucial other than that, right?
no, it's
All
just
right.
dancing. Well, thanks for listening. We also have Inside Out coming up right now. What'd you think, Steve?
I liked it. I
You think
liked it.
Pixar is back to their A game?
Honestly, I think that, Pixar just, they're kind of, every time that they're brought up, people just kind of hold them to this really kind of weirdly high standard that
Because they
every
made
single
that high
movie,
standard for themselves.
well, it's like every single movie of theirs, it's expected to be a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's either that, and if it's not that, then it's not a good movie. I honestly, call me crazy for saying this, I don't think Pixar has made a single bad movie.
You like Cars too?
I do like Cars 2 for what it is.
How?
I
It's
think
not even a
that's
good caper film.
I think it's a good kids movie.
Well, of
I
course it's a
really
good
I it
kids
only
movie.
yeah no I mean I think it works as entertainment. I don't think there's
It's
any reason
talking
for it.
cars. It can't
Yeah,
be bad.
there's no reason for it to exist other than the first one just made a lot of money and also toys.
The
But
first one was good. I really liked it.
yeah,
Like, I
no, but
got
I mean
emotional.
even in Cars 2, even though the spy angle seems kind of weird, they do play with it and they have fun and there's a lot of creativity in the animation. There's a lot of stuff that I liked with it,
I hated it,
especially with 3D. I mean,
but I didn't see it in 3D.
it was fun. Yeah, I watched it at home in 3D. Basically, what I'm saying is, I don't think they made a
Pixar
bad
makes bad
movie. At
movies.
least, yeah, even at their worst with Cars 2, there's still a
It's
lot of
definitely
creativity in there.
it's
There's
their
still a lot
worst
of
though.
effort in there. I mean, yeah, I'd say it's. I don't think it's the one that I like the least, but it's
What's the one
probably.
that you like the least?
I don't know. Probably Brave.
Yeah, I agree with that. Brave's
Just
kind
because
of Brave bit
Brave is.
on How to Train Your Dragon way too much.
It's just there's also probably too many narrative problems in there for me. But
Yeah, with the bear stuff
even
that was
then,
fucking weird.
but yeah, for Inside Out, I haven't read any reviews. I saw some tweets
Same.
that are praising it, but I don't think it's a masterpiece. If that's what people are saying,
People were saying that.
if that's what they're saying, I don't know. I've
Okay.
seen some tweets on that people are saying it's a return to form for Pixar and yada yada yada.
Hmm.
But I think it's a really fun movie. It's really clever. It's really creative. I really like just the different ways that they came up with making the personalities work to make the girls' actions happen in the real world. I thought that was really interesting. I thought the movie was a lot of fun. I don't think the emotional connection really landed there for me necessarily. It's kind of weird. I guess it's mainly just because every single emotional beat that's supposed to happen in the real world, you see how that's being put together behind the scenes, and
Hmm.
while that's fun and cute, it doesn't really land for me or connect with me. So I mean that's just kind of that is my small gripe with it, but it's a lot of fun. I really had fun with it.
Yeah, I thought it was fun too. It caught me off guard. It was a lot more depressing than I anticipated. Which makes sense because it is about these five traits that they picked in their film that make up our personalities. Joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. Which is kind of off. I mean, it makes sense for a character who's only 11, but then when you go inside adults and it's still the same five, it's kind of weird.
It's one thing I found weird but kind of funny.
What?
So for the adults, like either the traits are all male or all female, but for the
Mhm.
kid, they're kind of varied.
Well, it makes sense though, because I mean, when you're
Yeah,
that
still
young,
developing as a kid.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
No,
For
I found
puberty,
that funny though.
yeah,
Yeah.
it made sense. But yeah, I agree for the most part with what you said. It doesn't 100% land, but yeah, it didn't touch me, but I definitely felt things in certain scenes. I didn't almost cry, but I came close. But yeah, I liked it. I would definitely agree it's a return to form, but that's not really fair considering out of their last four films, if memory serves, one was a threequel, one was a sequel, one was a prequel, and then you got Brave.
Which was the last original one before this.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was
So
3 years
it's
ago.
not; those aren't the best films you can really.
I mean, that's why that is kind of my point. Is that all Pixar films, they're typically different, and it's just really weird to compare them all to each other aside from just the brand.
Well, yeah, I don't do the comparisons. It's just I can easily compare Monsters University to Monsters Inc. I can compare the sequels and the threequels, and unluckily, they went there a very long time without having any, and then it seems like that's all they've done. But that's why I'm happy about their slate now. They got Inside Out, they got The Good Dinosaur coming out in a couple months, but then they got Finding Dory.
Well, no, I think their mandate though is that they want to do at least one original film a year.
Good.
I think it was Ed Catmull that said that a while back, that's what they
Uh-huh.
want.
It makes
They can,
sense.
yeah. I mean, for the sake of originality, they have to do that.
Well, not even just originality, but just for the prestige. Like you're this great animation studio, arguably the number one CGI animation studio on the planet. You're kind of selling yourself short when you just recycle your properties, because that's something that even Disney doesn't really do.
Nah, they're recycling right now. They're recycling their old
Well,
classics and
yeah,
making them
yeah,
live
they're
action.
making the live action, but I have less a problem with that. But then again, I haven't seen any of them.
Well, there's very
Um,
few risks that they're taking.
mhm.
Tomorrowland is that's a risk,
Yeah, and
and
it failed.
that didn't
So
pay off. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah. So you can
uh,
see why they would want to do that.
it makes sense. It's a safe bet. I'm not sure how well this is going to work for kids. The trailers I wasn't sure about this film. I watched Parks and Rec, so I really like Amy Poehler, and she was perfectly casted. Her and Lewis Black, they're just casted so well in their respective traits. You know, joy and anger. Like that's who they are. You know, that's their persona, and to have them play that in a literal sense, I thought was just genius. And everyone in the film, that the main five anyway.
Yeah, especially Sadness.
Yeah, I would argue that this is Pixar's most humane feature. Like, it really is set in humanity and what drives us.
Well, aside
And,
from just getting really into the psyche of humanity, like,
yeah,
is
it
that
does
really
that
it?
too. But no, I just, it's entirely about this girl. There's nothing special about her. She doesn't have superpowers. Her toys don't come to life. It's not set in some archaic old time. It was about regular people and our lives and the problems with them and how it's not always perfect and how we deal with that. Which that's probably really important for a kid.
Yeah, that is a message I absolutely appreciate. Like, especially recently, Monsters University did something really similar,
Did
which
they?
I know that you
Was
were
it the
not big
Mike
on that film.
Wazowski?
No, I know you were not that big on that film, but the
Uh,
message of that movie just it's kind of insane to make a movie that's geared at kids and
Give me a
instead
refresher
of
course.
and
I was
telling them
very.
that their dreams may not happen. That's a
Oh
pretty
yeah, I remember that part of this.
yeah, no, I mean that's a very powerful scene in that movie. I mean, that's pretty ballsy to do.
Yeah, they got the Mike Wazowski stuff done pretty
Yeah,
well.
no, I
But
mean,
Monsters Inc. is my favorite Pixar film. I mean, Toy Story 3 is a close second. Um, but yeah, I love Monsters Inc. and the whole concept of them doing a prequel killed me. I didn't want
Monsters
it.
Inc. Honestly, it's kind of near the bottom for me for sort of the same reason as this. I feel that it's very creative, it's very imaginative, and
Hmm.
you can't help but be fascinated in seeing how this world looks. But there really isn't much of an emotional connection for me. Like I see that it's there, I see what it's supposed to be, but I
Yeah.
don't really, especially the thing with the little girl in Monsters Inc. It doesn't leave an
Woo!
impression on me.
Oh, that's a
That's
different topic.
yeah.
So wait, you just said that this is towards the bottom for you. Inside Out's towards the bottom.
Okay, Inside Out being near the bottom, maybe that's the wrong thing to say. It's just
Hmm.
it's okay. It's not near the top for me, I guess.
Well, yeah,
Is what I mean.
yeah. What?
And there's so
The
many
thing.
films that they've made at this point that it's just it's getting harder and
It's
harder to
hard. Yeah,
rank
it's
them.
hard to
It's
rank
just
them.
yeah, it's just they're to me they're known as a studio that produces quality work. Even if
Yeah,
for like the worst of their stuff, it still ends up being pretty good, and you can
still
find
pretty
redeeming
good.
value in there.
Let's talk about the short film before it.
Oh
Something that Pixar
God,
always does. I kind of lavaed it.
you're kidding me?
No, I did like it, to
Wow,
be honest. I did.
that wasn't even clever, man. Wow.
I did. I seriously did like it. I know the song is it's Hawaiian folklore, and it was good to see a Pixar film. Even it's not feature length, but to have Pacific Islander characters, from a mythological standpoint. But I thought it did a fairly good job of setting up Inside Out. Like, it was a good segue. Speaking of which,
Okay,
did you
you know what?
have
No,
the
no, hold
Pete
up.
Doctor thanking the audience thing before your film?
No, I did not.
Ah, it was really nice.
The
Might have
okay,
been.
but
Oh,
okay, just that short. What's funny is I don't know if you probably saw this a while back, but someone posted something online and it made rounds all over Facebook, and there was just this photograph of all the female characters in Disney films, and Pixar was included in that, of how their faces are just they have the same shape and the same outline. And the criticism there is that all female characters look the same, but for males it's completely different.
maybe in passing.
You never saw that?
Perhaps.
Just because once I thought the animation on the volcano for the male volcano was great, but I was thinking like oh, so
Very stoic on the woman.
how is a female volcano going to look at it? And then just once she showed up, that whole argument came to mind right away, and I was just like, wow, not only does this look terrible, but it just goes on to prove that point, unfortunately.
Oh no, I
Which
thought it was one of their.
I do not think that that's true. Like for animation, I
It's hard.
female characters, yeah. I mean, but they don't all look the same. There's
No,
the
definitely
witch
not.
in Brave comes to mind. The character played by Kristen Wiig in How to Train Your
Fucking
Dragon doesn't look,
Roz
yeah,
in Monsters Inc.
yeah. No, I mean,
Cecilia.
they don't all look the
Uh,
same. There's exceptions to the rule. I mean,
it's easy to
but
make
that's
these
short.
kind of little theses when you only pick certain examples. Anyone can do it.
but I mean, just that lava short really does not do any favors. So I'm sorry, it
I liked
looked
it.
way too weird to me.
Oh no, I liked it. I thought
Yeah,
it was cute.
I
I thought it
was
was better than like La Luna and Bounden and a couple
Bound In was the one I
others.
was thinking of where it's okay.
That
It's
one's
just as
so
bad as this
bad.
one. Yeah,
No, it's worse.
you
That
know, I
song is
found Aloha
annoying.
more charming than Lava Love or
Well,
whatever the hell it's called.
yeah. Well, that's a whole film, and you got Emma Stone in it. So,
I rest my case.
um, but back to this film. I thought the premise, in terms of originality, I'd give it like a 6. They handled it really well, but it kind of reminded me of like a mix between uh like Meet Dave and Osmosis Jones.
Yeah, except a better version of that.
No, Osmosis Jones is great.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but
So good.
I mean, with a movie like this, though, I don't know if it's necessarily fair for me to say it, but I mean, like I said earlier, I was disappointed that it didn't really leave an emotional connection for me because there was a lot of stuff I could definitely relate to, especially the main conflict that
Hmm.
this kid is being forced to move from a different state, and that's something
Yeah,
that I personally was able to relate to
and also
because
like the whole
yeah, I do
joy
remember,
versus sadness thing.
yeah, no, I do remember that thing, but I the movie really isn't about that.
No, totally not. I like the little things in this film more than the big things. Like I liked where the dreams are made. I liked the movie studio. I liked the workers who have like they're below the headquarters, and I don't know. It also, now that I think about it, the film kind of reminded me of Wreck-It Ralph.
How so?
Ralph is trying to get somewhere. He leaves his main domain,
Oh yeah.
and on the way back, he goes through these various places that he's always wanted to go to but never has.
What's also nice though is that there really isn't a villain
Yeah,
in here at all.
but the villain
I mean,
is,
it is an internal conflict.
which is very unique, especially for a Disney film. There is no antagonist. The closest to an antagonist is like the world, so like just living, which is very realistic because that's relatable. There rarely is someone out to get us, someone that is trying to hurt us or whatever, and usually we create our own problems. But yeah, I thought this film was pretty limited. The fact that it only takes place in the brain, which I mean, that was advertising, like this, the
I mean,
cutouts, the
that's the entire point.
stand-ins.
Is that is what's happening inside the mind of a little girl. That was the pitch
Yeah,
even before the ads
um,
came out.
exactly.
Yeah, though in closing, I guess just it is very fun and creative. Just I guess the
Mhm.
disconnect for me is that it's handling a situation that is supposed to be very very emotional and very difficult to go through, and yet it goes about it in a way that's very playful and fun. And I
Yeah,
understand that,
very whimsical.
but it's just a bit of like an odd disconnect there for me. But I still think it's worth the dollar anyway for families to go to. Yeah, especially there's a lot of fun gags throughout, and it's definitely worth checking
Ooh,
out.
forgot a major thing.
Yeah.
We talked about this the other day. We talked about it during Tomorrowland. We talked about it during Jurassic World, and especially during the 2 Cents. Michael, how do you pronounce his name?
Giacchino.
Giacchino. I actually liked his score
It's a
this
good
time
score,
around.
yeah.
It actually stood out. The only problem I had is that the main theme had shades of When She Loved Me, but in Toy Story 2, Jesse's song. It sounded very similar. Like, it might have been in a minor key, but it was dun 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 dun.
Hey,
But
the scores is so good that
it was
it
still
almost got
good.
me to
It was
cry,
good. Yeah,
especially at key
it
moments.
was a
Yeah,
very
it's
good
a very good
score.
score.
It might be nominated for best score.
We got a
Um,
lot of other scores to go through this year, but
for right now, from
yeah,
what I've seen,
I need to hear a great
it's on the
score.
list.
I'm hoping John
Yeah,
Williams can
it's
deliver
not a
on
great
that.
score. But yeah, I liked it. It's a Pixar film. Even with, like we mentioned, even with Cars 2 or Monsters University, it's hard to go wrong, especially for the family. Like there was some great humor here, especially once they're in San Francisco. Like the bear joke, I thought that was just great.
I like the
Um,
earthquake one,
yeah,
especially
the
so
quick
soon
one.
after San Andreas.
Oh, that's the thing. This is why I need to write notes. I can't wing it like this. This was an even better disaster flick than San Andreas, I would argue. It
Just an
handled
internal
disaster.
disaster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's internally, but I felt that it hit closer to home. it actually had some gravitas. Like it meant something. It wasn't just eye candy. I mean, the fact that it also takes place in San Francisco kind of connects them. But it worked for me. But in terms of closing up, yeah, I liked it. Wouldn't buy it for a dollar. But that's kind of me. If you're into Disney, you're into Pixar, you want to see Amy Poehler again since Parks and Rec got canceled or ended rather, then sure, it's fun. Just don't expect to be wowed. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I didn't think the 3D was great.
No, you know
Um,
what? I don't think it wasn't terrible, and there's some great shots in there, but it was very the look of it. I don't know if it was just my the projection at my theater, and
it was fuzzy.
yeah, it was fuzzy, and I get it's supposed to
That
look
was the
like that,
film.
yeah, especially in your head, but that doesn't really make for great depth.
Well, there just wasn't any depth to be had. It wasn't part of the
Yeah,
story.
although they do some
Um,
cool things with just different depths of animation in one gag specifically, and
yeah, that one. Yeah, I know what you're
yeah,
speaking of.
especially at the
Yeah,
bottom of
that
the
was a great. That was a great scene.
yeah.
So let's close this out for the weekend of June 19th. What's your pick? What should people go watch at the box office? Jurassic World, Dope, or Inside Out?
Well, Dope needs more cred, man, because not that many people are going to see it. It's nice to see that a small film from Sundance is getting a wide release, and for those
Mm-hmm.
that are really up for seeing a unique coming of age movie that's really fast, really entertaining, really funny, and just hits home at the end, I'd go with Dope. But everyone's probably going to see Jurassic World.
I agree. Dope is where my money
Yeah,
is.
but hey,
I'm probably gonna watch it again, but yeah, Jurassic World
yeah,
is what
and
everyone's gonna
hey, if
watch.
you got kids though, Inside Out it's a good time,
Inside Out's better for the kids than Jurassic World.
definitely.
So if you liked anything we said, or even more importantly, if you hated it, we'd love some feedback. Please email us at dollar.review@gmail.com. Tweet at us at dollarreviews on Twitter. Or, you could do old fashioned, like us on our page on Facebook.
You can find me personally, follow me on Twitter at S_MTX. And you can follow my film diary at letterboxd.com/S_MTX, where I log in every movie that I'm watching and sometimes write little reviews on them.
As for me, you can find me at Brian Gillis on Twitter. That's BRYONGILLIS. Same name on Letterboxd, which is also my diary. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you again.